Yo, what is up guys? It's your boy Mike. You already know what is up and what is good. And in today's video, I'm going to give you guys a full breakdown of the Indiana Pacers preseason. I know a lot of you guys have been waiting for this video, so I do apologize for that. And originally, I was planning to do one after every game, but I did miss the video on the Rockets, so I decided to just do a full Pacers preseason. And I do like this a lot better because I was able to do a lot more analyzing and observing on how these guys played and how they performed. And there are a lot of things I think you guys may not have noticed or may have noticed, and I'm just going to go over some main takeaways. There were a lot of things I liked, loved, there were a ton of positives, but there were also some things that I didn't necessarily hate, but just could have seen some better outcomes. I mean, the only thing that was really bad or got me heated was that game Aaron Holiday had like 8 turnovers and the Pacers could have easily came out on top in that one. I was like this close to pulling the hair out of my scalp. Then I just sat back and remembered it was just a preseason game, so adjustments will be made and adjustments will be done. So imagine if that was a regular season or a playoff game, I probably would have ripped the skin off my head. There was so much things Aaron Holiday did that game defensively that was amazing. Then it was like Ben Moore, I believe, who had a wide open dunk right under the basket, took a gather dribble, and that gave the defender just enough time to get him to alter a shot. And I was like, what are you doing? And then I just had to take a deep breath, sit down, take a deep breath again, and remember that it was just a preseason game. So guys, let me just jump right into this already. Kick back, chill out, relax, grab something to eat, grab something to drink, and enjoy the video. If you guys are new to the channel and just now finding me for the very first time, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and join the family. Now I want to run through the negative stuff first, just so I can end on a good note. Plus there weren't much negative things to take away, but there were a few. But this one was more personal to me, and I don't know if any of you guys may have felt this too, but key players didn't really play as much this preseason that I was really looking forward to see on the floor together with some of the players that did play, such as Sabonis and O'Quinn, and even Miles Turner and Kyle O'Quinn together as well. And I use this lineup predictor that I used in my previous videos, and the front court of Miles Turner and Kyle O'Quinn was actually our most efficient front court to have on the floor together. Tyreke Evans, I believe, was injured the first preseason game, I believe to a sprained ankle, but he did make his way into the rest of the game, so all Pacers fans can agree here, his health will play a huge factor on this team's success this season and the ones to follow if he decides to stay. I did notice Nate McMillan was just seeing what combinations would deem successful, maybe ones that he drew up during training camp that looked good, and then he would coach based off the game situations and substitute better options. So I'm not mad right there, although I did like the idea of playing the younger guys a lot, which he did say he was going to do prior to the preseason starting. I was just hoping to see some of our main lineups out there and see how they performed, which he did pursue to do the final games of the preseason. Now let's talk the struggles of Miles Turner, Doug McDermott, and Tyreke Evans. And they aren't major overall things, there were just a few things, like I said, that could have seen a better outcome. So let me actually start with Doug McDermott, and his struggles are a good thing, and let me tell you why. He's a shooter. I noticed a lot in the Houston Rockets matchup, the Rockets just did an excellent job at defending him and shots that were drew up for him, because every time the ball would reach Doug McDermott in the movement, he had nowhere to go, so he was forced to pass or dribble drive, which he isn't bad at doing. If the Houston Rockets, the team that had the best record in the league last year, are trying to defend one of your bench players and Doug McDermott like that in a preseason game, that's how you know you have weapons and that he's one of them. They know he's an elite shooter, and when teams guard you like that, that means 2 or 3 things will happen. 1, they'll get tired of chasing McDermott around and he'll eventually start getting open looks, which is what you want, because he'll get more comfortable and he'll start to get in the rhythm. 2, they'll overplay him and start to foul him and send him to the line, and that's exactly what you want as a Pacers fan. He's not only an elite shooter from distance, but very efficient from the line as well, especially if you guys saw how drastic the foul calling was with the point of education on the freedom of movement. Players like Steph, Klay Thompson, JJ Redick, Kyle Korver, and McDermott will by far benefit the most from this change. Players that are notoriously known for coming off screens and knocking down threes, or just elite shooters in general. That's why, I don't know if you guys saw this too, but there was a Warriors and Kings broadcast where Jeff Van Gundy was getting heated because Buddy Hield was doing 2 things wrong, but mostly one. He would either foul Klay Thompson when coming off a screen, giving him free throws, Or, what he was mostly doing to upset Van Gundy, he would go under the screen, giving Klay Thompson a wide open look every time it was ran for him. And as a former coach in Jeff Van Gundy, that was getting him steamed, and that would get any coach hysterical. Now the Pacers have one of those players as well, a weapon they can utilize just like Klay Thompson, because coaches will get mad, they'll call a timeout and say, hey, you gotta stay on Klay, you gotta stay on McDermott, stay on Steph, Redick, Korver, etc. Now that player goes back in the game, overplaying him a few times, giving him foul line opportunities. And finally, number 3. It's what happened in a couple of games from Doug, where he's just being guarded so well off screens and plays drawn up for him, that once he does get open looks, it's a surprise to him because he's used to being heavily guarded that game off those screens, and that can throw a shooter off on certain occasions, where he doesn't really expect to be open, but when it does happen, he ends up not taking the shot, or does take the shot but just hesitates to do it. But as games progressed, you could really sense that Doug McDermott was really getting his rhythm down here on this team and started to knock down shots. And once he started to do that, that was a great sight to see. Now let's talk about Miles Turner's shooting struggles. I'm not sure if anyone else noticed this, but most of his points came from the post, or just rebound dunks or putbacks, as well as pick and roll situations. It seemed to me that every time Miles Turner got the ball at mid-range, where he's deadly at, he either passed up the shot, and for good reasons just to keep the ball moving, or he would take his shot, but I noticed one thing every time he took that shot. It came up short every time. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't recall Miles Turner hitting one mid-range shot that whole preseason. He did take them, don't get me wrong, and he will make them throughout the course of the season because it was only 4 road preseason games, which is really tough for a team to do, and I'm not sure any team has done that. It's 4 straight road preseason games, so it was just odd to me that he didn't take much of those shots that he's really good at, and when he did take them, they always came up short. And the only reason I can think of this is his strength game. I remember when I first added on a lot of strength and muscle, and it did take time to adjust my shot. And maybe Miles is going through the same little phase right now, where that added muscle and strength gain makes you question your touch on your shot. I know I dealt with this, and maybe some of you guys that play as well can vouch for this too, where you just feel like you added enough strength to where you don't need to shoot the ball as hard, so you don't, resulting in your shot coming up short most of the time. Then you just get that muscle memory and you don't really think about it anymore. It could also just be that he needs to get a little rust off and get his conditioning up to where it was last year too, because we all know that can play a factor in your shot coming up short, just being tired. But I don't see this being a chronic problem throughout the season. I'm pretty sure Miles Turner was the best mid-range shooter in the league last year from like 10 to 16 feet, I think it was, so I wouldn't worry too much on that. Like I said, I just thought it was strange that he gave up that shot in most situations, rather than last year, he would have taken those shots and cashed them every time. And then there was Tyreke Evans. From him, I noticed it looked like he was always holding back from playing his game, like he was hesitant to bring out his real game. And there were some plays where he did do that. He would do a few moves and doing a crossover, getting to the basket, hitting a 3, and afterwards he would say, that's what Tyreke Evans does. But on the other hand, sometimes he would just look tentative, like he's just urging the ball out, but he doesn't, and sometimes that would result in him passing the ball when he shouldn't, giving the Pacers a turnover. Or some sequences where it wouldn't look natural for him at all, and he just loses the ball and he turns it over. That's really the only negative thing I saw from him, but time and playing more games will surely fix that without a question. Like I hinted to earlier, there was a lot of fouling, but this was only due to the emphasis of the freedom of movement change, which I don't like personally, but there were a ton of foul calls across the league in the preseason, so it's not just this team. The foul calling will not be this drastic in the regular season, and I'm actually curious on how they'll call these in the playoffs. But yeah, regardless of the fact, there was a ton of foul calls. It just stops the game too much, and there were times in some games I watched where there was an out of bounds play being ran, and there was like 4 or 5 foul calls before the ball even got inbounded. And I totally get that. That's just to get the players accustomed to getting called for it. So when the regular season hits, they know now not to do it or they will get penalized for it. So yeah, don't stress too much on the foul calling. All those foul calls won't be that hectic in the regular season, and hopefully not the playoffs, but this was just a small thing because it was just across the whole entire preseason, not just this team. But the Pacers did commit a lot of turnovers, but this is most likely due to the fact that Nate McMillan playing a lot of the young guys and giving them a lot of extra minutes, which he did stress before the start of the preseason. So I'm not too hard on that because they are young players, so that will better as their careers go on. But you still had to acknowledge this part of the preseason. But there were some occasions where the Pacers did commit turnovers that were unlikely and they didn't usually do. That also comes with just getting used to playing with each other, playing with the new guys, integrating them into the rotations so that they will gel together and so they don't mistime their passes and throw the ball away or just turn the ball over in general. So that will come with playing together more as well. Other than that, I'm not really concerned with anything else too much. The Pacers were 5th fewest in turnovers last year, so hopefully that can translate to this year. That's really all the negative things I saw, so guys, if you noticed anything else bad or you didn't like, please let me know down in the comments. So let me jump right into the positives, and there were quite a few. The Pacers defense looks a lot better. You have a new and improved Miles Turner who has done an exceptional job at altering shots at the rim, blocking shots, being more lateral and quick on his feet on defense, and especially on the help defense. Then you had the likes of Oladipo, Sabonis, Tyreke Evans, and even TJ Leaf to grab the boards off the misses and the loose balls on turnovers or strips. Overall, they looked good much like last year on defense, and it has translated down to the young guys as well, and I will hit on that later. But yeah, like I said, Miles Turner is really improved on defense. You can see he's a lot quicker on his feet and really faster on getting to those shots up in the air and getting blocks. Guys, the Tyreke Evans and Domantas Sabonis pick and roll looks a lot better than expected. And it's not that I had low expectations for it. It just looks a lot better than what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be good, but I didn't think it was going to be this effective and this efficient. You can clearly see they have already built that chemistry running those pick and rolls together, and they are highly effective at the least. Tyreke Evans mentioned that Sabonis was his type of player. In pick and roll, he can just dish it off, or if the option is not there, Tyreke Evans should just go right to the basket and score or pull up for a jumper. There were some sequences where Domantas Sabonis looked unstoppable in some ways. The defense has to close in on Evans in order to prevent him from getting an easy layup at the basket, and that leaves Sabonis wide open every time. So it's a lose-lose situation for that opposing team because they either have to let Sabonis score wide open or they have to let Tyreke Evans score every time. That Sabonis and Tyreke Evans pick and roll is going to be lethal. The young guys on this team are thriving early. I know you guys were going crazy and just raving in that Grizzlies-Pacers matchup down the stretch in regulation when Aaron Holiday and Ike Anigbogu were going off on defense. Although they couldn't execute on offense, which will come easier as they age, mature, and gain experience, that defense was outstanding. I mean, you had Ike getting blocks, Aaron Holiday getting block after block after block, and then he did show some flashes of that after that game as well. Then you had other guys making stops as well, but they just couldn't get it done and come out on top, and that's okay. They are still very young players, and that is very promising to see. Now, I tell you guys in my other Pacers videos that TJ Leaf always performs a lot better in actual NBA games. For some reason in like Summer League and some G League games, he doesn't seem to show up. But give this guy some active minutes in active NBA games and something just ignites in him. And it showed throughout these 4 games. He was getting double-doubles, hitting threes consistently, and even playing some decent defense on some plays. That was a great sight to see right there, because I know in that Summer League this offseason, people were starting to get down and disappointed on TJ Leaf when I already knew he does a lot better in real NBA games. There's no reason to be concerned about TJ Leaf at all. And lastly, and certainly not least, Edmond Sumner was a beast out there. He was getting steals, driving to the basket, getting to the line, knocking down shots. He was all over the place. I mentioned this earlier too about this lineup predictor that I use in some of my other videos. The Pacers' most efficient lineup consisted of having Edmond Sumner in it, and that lineup was ranked top 5 in the league with a positive 17.3 net rating. I believe that lineup was Darren Collison, Victor Oladipo, Edmond Sumner, Kyle O'Quinn, and Miles Turner. Like I said about that Miles Turner and Kyle O'Quinn frontcourt, that was the most efficient frontcourt that the Pacers can have on the floor. It's based off real numbers, so if you want to have Miles Turner at the 4 and O'Quinn at the 5, so be it. Or you can have Miles Turner at the 5 and Kyle O'Quinn at that power forward position. But yeah, after seeing what I saw from Edmond Sumner in the preseason and what he can do fully healthy, which a lot of us might have forgotten, I understand why this lineup is so efficient and ranks at number 5 in the league. Sumner is extremely active on defense, he's quick, has that speed, and gets in passing lanes much like Oladipo does. And he stands at 6'6", so if the Pacers want to run a switch-all lineup, they are very capable of doing so. And he's very explosive, and I just can't wait to see if the Pacers switch up his contract from that two-way contract to an actual contract and sign him to this team, and if they do, to see what he can do out there on the floor. I was very high on Edmond Sumner before, and I'll tell you this, he's one of the players I'm most excited about on this Pacers team going forward in their young group. Now, although Miles was passing up shots and coming up short when he did take them, there were a lot of things that I saw from Miles Turner that didn't come up short at all. His effort on defense, being aggressive, making his presence known in the paint. You guys could really sense that he was making his presence a lot more known in the paint down low on defense and offense as well. But his defensive presence is much more impactful this season, and you could really see it in these preseason games. You can see him getting up a lot better on blocks, going straight up to avoid getting foul calls, and he's much more quick on his feet and much more versatile than what he was before after he changed his body, and that definitely shows, and he looks awesome. He's much more aggressive down low, and his touch in the post is a lot better. He's also a lot more active on the boards, and not just grabbing boards, but also keeping the ball alive, tipping it out to teammates and giving other teammates a chance to retrieve the ball, and giving the Pacers more opportunities to score. His rim protection is something that's really improved. He's getting a much more higher volume in blocks, which was a key component of his game entering the league, and guys, you can really see where his rim protection will go and will be in the future. I'm really looking forward to see what he can do with that after he changed his body this summer, and we got a glance of that this preseason as well. But in the entirety of the team, this team's depth is really scary. I know some of you guys saw my comments on some of the Pacers preseason highlights, and I said this, and I'll say it again. There were times in games where the Pacers bench would get a 10 to 15 point lead, and you forget that the Pacers starters still had to come back in the game and play. This is what you want, and this is what you need in this league to be successful. Guys that can step up. This team is by far one of the deepest teams in the East, and even in the entire league. And the thing with the Celtics and the Raptors is that they have to do a lot more adjusting with trying to implement two-star players in Boston, being Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward. But we already seen what Kyrie Irving can do with this team, unlike Gordon Hayward having his injury opening night last year. So we're going to see Boston having to adjust those two players back into the lineups, and as well as Toronto having to do that with Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard's going to have to adjust switching out the players in that Kawhi Leonard and DeMar DeRozan trade, so it'll probably take a little bit more time for those two teams to really start going, whereas Philly and this team in Indiana really just kept their core together, more so with Indiana without any major injuries. Yes, the Pacers did add players, but bench players and potential starters are a lot more easier to integrate into your teams than a star player in this league. So be prepared for this bench of the Pacers to really keep them in the game at times and also get them a decent lead very quickly. The last thing I want to touch on is probably something we've all noticed and we are all ecstatic about, and that is Mr. Domantas Sabonis. He looks NBA ready. He was showing endless flashes of potential. I mean, he was scoring left and right, getting this rebound, getting that rebound, getting that putback, getting this putback. He was everywhere. He plays the right way, and he has so much potential, and he's only, like 22? He's going to be really good, really fast. Sabonis is highly efficient when he's on the floor. In the small amount of minutes he plays, he puts up effective numbers, getting or close to getting a double-double in like 12 to 15 minutes. He never backs down, he plays tough, and you can notice he also added a lot of muscle, and he's also very, very consistent in his play. And you can really see that he's going to have a huge presence for this team in the future and this season as well when he's in the game. Another thing I wanted to hit on was Thaddeus Young. He's one of the guys that make this team what it is. He's one of the most consistent guys on this team. Maybe not in his scoring, but on his effort on defense, his hustle, and he's one of the team's best on-ball and perimeter defenders. Always getting deflections, getting strips on defense, and he's just, like I said, one of those glue guys that make this team what it is. And it was really tough because Thaddeus Young did get injured prior to the preseason and training camp, so he didn't really have any time to really get able to gel with the team like the other players have. That's probably the main reason why that Pacers and Bulls preseason game, why it just fell apart. Because that was Thad Young's first game together with the whole team, and he was inserted into the starting lineup. So that's probably why the Pacers got off to such a bad start. Because yes, they are used to playing with each other, but Thaddeus Young still had to get acclimated into playing minutes with these guys again. So hopefully with the last few days, the Pacers have really been able to integrate him back into the rotations and getting things accustomed to him again, and we can really get to see what this Pacers team is made of this season. Let me know how you guys thought this team performed in the preseason. What were the things you liked or didn't like or really liked? Do you see this team any differently after seeing them in the preseason on the floor together? Let me know what this team can do this season. It's almost here, guys. The season is right around the corner, and I can't wait. So I just wanted to give you guys something good right before we dive into the season. That wraps up this Pacers preseason full breakdown, and I hope you guys leave this video with higher hopes than when you came before. Thank you for making it this far into the video. Again, if you guys are new to the channel and just now finding me for the very first time, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and join the family. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you have a great day. It's been your boy Mike, and you can let that beat drop.